Hello, we hope you're doing well. Welcome back, of course, to League of Legends news in the top 6% of pick'ems. I open up with that because I want to clarify it has all been luck through here. If you guys have, of course, I'll show my group stage pick'ems for all of you. I chose my heart for Liquid, and they go out, unfortunately enough, and I didn't choose Cloud9, and they go through in the second seed. It definitely cost me the point standings, but we're still in the top 6%, and I probably can assume that many of you guys watching this are probably up there as well in the point standings, and of course, we're all going for that same goal of Baron. And so I'm going to break down, of course, my playoff pick'ems for all of you, and really try and logistically break down these matches, because we've seen so many assumptions out there that I think people have overlooked many of the background stats about these teams. And these matchups, although some of them are close on paper, I don't think near as close as people think they're going to be. Of course, I'm crossing my fingers for some best of fives to go to map 5, but I really think some of these matchups are easier to predict than people give them credit for. But of course, we first can't forget all of these teams in playoffs stunningly in those best of 2s, or if you want to call them best of 1 double round robins, have actually lost one of those matches to another team in playoffs. So all the teams here have actually lost to each other in some sense or another. Of course, they're on opposite sides of the bracket. We have teams like Africa, they split a series of G2, Cloud9 with RNG. We also had, of course, Fnatic and IG, and then very lastly, KT and EDG. Yes, some of those series were a bit closer than others, and it definitely looked like some of those series, IG takes a dominant first map win against Fnatic, and then Fnatic beat them in that second match, and then the tiebreaker as well, looking very good. So take for it what you want. I can give you guys as many stats or background as you want, but when it comes down to it, it's going to come down to luck. But I'm going to actually break down the matchups for all of you, and hopefully get some of you guys, of course, those higher placed trophies. On top of that, though, the first match I want to talk about, of course, Cloud9 and Africa. I think one that is going to be one of the easier picks, and I mean that. I don't mean to be offensive. Of course, I'm a North American fan. I want to break it down very fast here. If it's a win-win situation. If Cloud9 goes through, I'm going to cheer for them the entire way through. If Africa wins, I'm going to get my pick'ems right. I think Africa is still on the forums one of those teams that is heavily underrated, especially when it comes to best of 5 gameplay. I'll give you guys 2 historical references. I think just in terms of preparing for opponents, you got to look at Africa really dangerously compared to a team like KT. You look at Cloud9's most recent best of 5s or best of 3 opponents, that being Liquid away back, of course, that later half of spring split against Liquid. They faced off against them in a best of 1 before that. It was Cloud9 who took it. I think definitely a best of 1 friendly team. Then they go to the best of 5, and it's Liquid 3-0 sweeping Cloud9. When you give a chance a team to prepare, actually a chance to prepare for a team like Cloud9, they definitely benefit more than Cloud9 does, in my own opinion. You look at most recently as well, their best of 5 against Gambit, the group play-in stage. Nearly lost that best of 5 to Gambit. I don't think many of you guys would compare Gambit to a team like Africa, and just for those 2 reasons there, guys, when you give a team a chance to actually prepare for a team like Cloud9 in a best of 5, a longer series, I think it benefits the opponent more so than Cloud9. Yes, I'm cheering for Cloud9, but when it comes to pick'ems, I think Africa is the easy pick here. And this next matchup, I think, is probably going to be one of the closer ones and tougher ones to predict, because out of the groups they came out of, they had some interesting results. You look at EG, they took that last match against KT. I don't know how you want to really take that into effect, because of course KT, that last match was not a tiebreaker, was not a decider. They didn't really need that victory, and in fact, if they lost, it was just Liquid not going through and clinching their spot. They actually, of course, lost that chance at a tiebreaker against EDG because EDG beat KT. I don't know how you want to take that into effect. Then you look at Fnatic, a really poor start to the group, especially looking like they were dominated against IG, but then a really strong finish. But it's very, very tough to judge that group they came out of, because you look at 100 Thieves, you look at G-Rex, arguably 2 of the lesser teams at world stage besides like a Mad team in Group C. So it's really tough to judge this group when it comes to IG and Fnatic as to how strong those wins actually were. But given Fnatic and their last 2 victories against IG, if they can win the early game, I really do believe this against EDG. I think Fnatic do take this. I believe in Reckless. If you guys saw his interview, he said he's going to make the finals. I take the player's word to heart. I know I probably shouldn't, because if you ask most players, they probably say they're going to make finals. I believe it here, though. The Fnatic is definitely the better team, the stronger team coming out of groups, and in this best of 5, I think they have the slight edge over EG. I'm going to take Fnatic over them, and I think the series that most people think is going to be the most competitive and probably the one that most teams wanted to avoid, that being KT or IG, is themselves against each other. I really do favor KT here, though. I think by far and away, of course, despite that lost EDG, they look the most dominant throughout groups of any team out there besides maybe RNG, and I think especially early on, laning phase, just overall a dominant team. I think a team that whenever they win the early game, which they most often do, they often win the match as well. And you can't really guarantee that for many North American or some European teams out there. I think KT is definitely the favorite here, although I do believe IG can take it. I just look that IG struggles in best of 5s as well. I think KT should be a pretty heavy favorite here, and I think KT take the series honestly quite handily. If they don't, I'd definitely be surprised. But the the one series I really want to talk about, I can't really break it down too much for you guys. I am going all European picks here. Of course, I picked Fnatic over EDG, and now I'm going to pick G2 as well. I don't know how I'm going to pick them here, but they are going to beat RNG somehow, some way. I really do believe when it comes to, of course, playing throughout groups, you have to hold back your wild cards, hold back your flex picks. When you have a team like G2, their flex picks are some of the best out there. Yes, they have come back to bite them in the butt sometimes, and I think of any teams out there who have a chance to beat RNG coming from that 2 seed, it's going to be a G2, but I really struggled to actually kind of solidify this on paper. When you look, of course, back to the regionals and the teams that G2 has lost to in best of fives, teams like I think Misfits was a 3-0 sweep, or a pretty brutal series there for regionals, and a very close series against Splice as well. That went 3-2, I believe. So I really do think if you guys want your pick'ems to be correct, you probably should choose RNG in this series, but I'm going to go with G2. I need to go all EU here and have a chance, of course, of them making the finals somehow, as well as I don't think a North American team can do it, but I always can be wrong. Now it goes to semifinal matchups, and again, these are going to be even tougher than before because it's almost tough not to choose with the team you do like more, that being Fnatic. I think Fnatic have a chance in this series. I still think Afrika should be heavily favored to win this series as well. I will give it to Fnatic based off one thing only. If they can win the early game like they did against IG, that is the only way they win this series. And again, I still think Afrika should be favored. I will take Fnatic over them, though, going to the finals, and that will be alongside KT. I think KT, I'm going to favor them all the way through over RNG here. I can't give you guys too much background as to why, but I think the Korean resolve repeats itself, and I also think in the finals as well, it will be KT handedly over Fnatic. I think the top side of the bracket is generally weaker if Afrika does not make it through, and again, with how they started off these groups, you never know what's going to happen, what Afrika you might see in these best of fives, but I really do think it's going to be KT and Fnatic in the finals, guys, and KT probably taking it quite handily. You look at the way that many of these pro players in EU as well as NA talk about teams like KT, it's almost as if they're already scared about them. So I have to favor KT in this final series, but again, these are my predictions, these are my guesses. I could be completely wrong, but I do think at the end of the day, if we follow each other's pick'ems, or my pick'ems, and if you did it before in the group stage, it should be an easy Baron trophy for all of us. But as always, hope you guys all enjoy. I'll be back here probably Friday or Monday with some crazy stuff happening on. Of course, with Worlds continuing, guys, we have some crazy roster changes expected to happen sometime soon, and I'll definitely be covering all of those. As always, my name is Jake. I'll see you guys back here soon. Goodbye.